This is Foundations of Math and Pre-Calculus 10, Chapter 6.5, and we're going to be looking at slope. And slope simply means change. It is the ratio of the change in the dependent variable versus the change in the independent variable. And we use m to denote slope, and we have several different formulas. It's rise over run, or the change in y versus the change in x, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. When you're using a calculator, be careful to put brackets around the numerator and denominator. If the absolute value of the slope, these two red lines means absolute value, and absolute value simply means if it's negative, make it positive. Just take the negative sign away. So if the absolute value of the slope is large, it means that it's steep and the change is large. If the absolute value of the slope is small, then it is not steep and the change is small. And if the slope is 0, then there is no change. If the slope is positive, greater than 0, then the dependent variable is increasing. Conversely, if the slope is negative or less than 0, then the dependent variable is decreasing. And by convention, the sign of the slope goes with the rise, and the run is considered positive and goes to the right. So let's look at some examples. Determine the slope from the graphs. Okay, so we have 4 different lines. Let's calculate the slope of A. We'll call this 0.2 and this one 0.1. So we have 1 minus negative 3. So 1 is from the y value here, negative 3 is from the y value here, over x2 minus x1. x2 and x1 are both 1. We simplify this, we get 4 over 0, and 4 over 0 is undefined. But we don't want to say undefined slope, we just say no slope. Okay, so use no slope. The slope of B. So y2 is up here, and that's 4. y1 is down here, that's minus negative 4. x2 is negative 1. And x1 is negative 1, 2, 3. So we have 2 negatives make a positive, so that's 4 plus 4, that's 8. 2 negatives make a positive, so this is 3 minus 1, that's 2. And the slope is 4. Let's do the slope of C. We have negative 1 minus negative 1 over 3 minus negative 1. And this becomes negative 1 plus 1, that's 0. 3 plus 1, that's 4. 0 divided by 4 is 0. Let's do the slope of D. We have 1 minus 4. 1 is y2. 4 is y1. And we have 4 minus negative 2. So x2 is 4 and x1 is negative 2. So we have 1 minus 4, that's negative 3. We have 4 plus 2, that's 6. So we have negative 1/2. Okay, so this is a positive slope that's going up, and this is a negative slope, it's going down. So that's another way of looking at increasing and decreasing. And we want to make a note that 0 and no slope are different. Zero slope is horizontal and no slope is vertical. They're different, so don't make the mistake of saying no means zero. Let's look at some more examples. Determine the slopes from the points. So we have A, B, C, D, and we're doing the slope from A to B. So we want to do this. B is x2, y2, A is x1, y1. We have 6 minus 0 over 3 minus 0. So this is 6 over 3, and that's 2. Okay, let's do slope from A to D. This one becomes x2, y2, and this one stays x1, y1. So negative 1 minus 0 over 0 minus 0. This is negative 1 over 0. This is undefined, so we say no slope. Slope from C to D. So this one becomes our x1, y1, x2, y2. Minus 1 minus negative 1. And we have 0 minus negative 2. So negative 1 plus 1, that's 0. 0 plus 2. And we have 0. So this is 0 slope. And finally, slope from B to C. This is our x1, y1. This is our x2, y2. So we have negative 1 minus 6, negative 2 minus 3. So we have minus 7 over minus 5. And we just simplify that to 7 over 5. The two negative signs cancel out. So the problem with word problems is that there are many things that represent change, and therefore they represent slopes. For instance, we could use the words speed, acceleration, rate, increase, decrease, derivative, rise, ... There are many synonyms. And change can happen with money, light, position, sound, pressure, force, etc. And when working on word problems, you must recognize that you're being given the slope or a means to calculate the slope. So here's an example. On December 20th, 2016, there was 50 millimeters of snow at my house. On December 24th, 2016, there was 30 millimeters of snow at my house. It snowed on December 17th, 2016. Create an equation, and if it didn't snow anymore, when would the snow have disappeared? And you can consider this to be a linear problem. And another question is, how much snow originally fell on December 17th? Finally, what are the domain and range? The best thing to do is start by calculating the slope. We have 30 centimeters, and we have 50 centimeters. So we consider this to be our 0.2, and this is our 0.1. And the x value is time, so that would be the date. So the date here is the 24th, and the date here is the 20th. So we have negative 20 over 4, and this is negative 5. And if you wanted units, this was millimeters per day. Okay, next we want to create an equation. The easiest form to use is point slope form because we're given 2 points. We can use either one. We'll use December 20th as our point. So d minus 50, this is our dependent value, equals the slope, negative 5, and t minus 20. Okay, it was the 20th of December. To answer the question, if it didn't snow anymore, when would the snow have disappeared? So we want to have 0 And we're going to solve for the date. Okay, now we simplify. We expand this. 0 minus 50 is just negative 50. So we have minus 5t, and we have plus 100. Move the 100 over to the other side, it becomes negative 100. So we have negative 150. And we divide both sides by negative 5. So t equals 150 divided by 5 is 30. The snow would have disappeared by December 30th. Now we have to do a different substitution. How much snow originally fell on December 17th? So we don't know how much snow it is, so we just leave that as a variable. D minus 50 equals minus 5. And we know the date was the 17th. Minus 20. So D equals, we move the 50 over to this side, and it becomes positive. And we have negative 5 times negative 3. So D equals negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15, so we have 65. And this is millimeters. And we answer the question, 65 millimeters of snow fell on December 17th at my house. This probably wasn't the same at your house. And then finally, what are the domain and range? The domain is only valid from when the snow fell to where it disappears. T is in the interval of December 17th to December 30th. And if you want to be specific, you would say 2016. The range, now, even though we started out with 65 and ended with 0, we still want to order the interval. This is 0 millimeters first and 65 millimeters second. And that completes this lesson.